Yeah. I was on a phone call with NASA about 6 months later. They were not happy with the Mars rover. Well, at the time, I promised minions. So hopefully at this point I can deliver minions. By the way, where is he? Thank you. This is awesome. What is it? Dark Horse Bourbon Barrel Aged Beer. It is, oh no shit, it's good. You can't see through it, which means it's good to start with. Full of nutrients and goodness. Frank also gave me, is Frank in here or is he hanging out? Frank is the other side dragon apparently as well. Between him and a couple of others. We have the blame dice. And if none of you have seen these, I've got them with me at the moment and he'll have them back again at some point in time. But given the media's preference for blaming nation states, somebody enterprisingly decided to make some dice that has everything from 0-day SQL injection, buffer overflows, and you can blame whichever country you want. Russia, we can blame Canada, China, DPR. You know who's not on here? The frickin' French. We need another set. We need the bloody, who plays D&D? Alright, we need the 20-sided D&D dice. I want France on there, and then somebody needs to put like the Ascension Islands or the Falkland Islands on there as well. Because I think the Ascension Islands have got like 300 people on the internet. Probably about the same amount as North Korea. Yeah, I love these frickin' things. So anytime that anybody comes up with a new exploit, we're going to roll the dice and see how close the media actually get to getting this shit right for a change. It's about never. How are we doing on time? Am I starting? -1 minute. All right. We'll give everybody another minute or so to get their asses in. Everybody having fun so far? Good. There is, we got so much fun stuff going on there. We got the Internet of Things village. The general concept behind that is come in and break shit. Figure out how it works, figure out how to reverse engineer it, and have fun with it. There's not very often you get a chance to get loose with somebody else's tech. In this case, we kidnap stuff from Philips and Samsung. The Samsung shit that doesn't blow up. Who else is? We got GE's stuff in there as well, but GE wasn't very happy because we just spent a couple of weeks hacking various other things of this. What the hell happened to poor Bessie? She looked like she's been Rogered on stage. She is wore out. Poor wee lass is past her prime. All right. We good? Let's get started. All right, so I will somewhat apologize, but you guys are kind of used to this. GrrCon to me is kind of like my reset button on the year. I love this place because it's fun, it's kind of cool, and it gives me the opportunity with you guys to try new talks and new stuff out. So somewhat, you guys are my guinea pigs. So this is an entirely new talk that got finished at about 2:30 this morning with the help of more alcohol. So hold on and hope for the best. Obviously, as standard, we have our federal authorities and arrest capabilities people. We will obviously be talking about bunnies. If you have arrest warrants, get the fuck out of here. That's about as nice as I can put it. Somebody gave me the heads up the other day. Do you remember we talked about airplanes a few years ago? Before shit went sideways, literally? Apparently there were a bunch of feds sitting in the back that were whispering to each other. So if you are still in here and you start looking at the shit that we're talking about, take notice this time and actually do something. When you write the affidavit, actually get it right for a change. So, some housekeeping notes. Obviously, thanks to Chris, as always and as ever. He puts on a kick-ass conference. Try to give him a hug. Obviously, give Pink Nightmare a hug. Come to the IoT Village. We have cookies. You can steal the damn things. Wherever Chester is, he's running around the place. He's the one that's got Eddie's tattoo on his forehead. Give him a hug as well, please. Where's Mr. Whitehead? He's not in here. Poor Justin. Give him a hug and offer him... Offer him a hug and give him somewhere to sleep for the night. Ask questions. This conference is here. Chris brings us all in here so you guys can ask us all questions. You have some of the best guys in the car hacking space, in the spectrum space, in all sorts of other things here. For crying out loud, take advantage of that and ask us questions. Obviously, remember the 3-2-1 rule. What is it? 3 hours of sleep, 2 meals, and 1 shower. Please. And hug a vet. All right. Tattoos and piercings. They're back. Do you guys remember this slide from last year? This is getting recorded, isn't it? My mother watches my things every now and again. I get a phone call from her. Christopher, I watched one of your videos. Yes, mother. All right, today's topic. Minions. How do we get minions? We're done with hacking shit. We're done with hacking IoT, hacking all sorts of other stuff. Let's hack minions. This is probably a more accurate representation of where we're actually going. And here's the logic behind it. Back in 2012, we did the Land Sea Air. We kind of pwned everything. We didn't get the Mars rover and we didn't get the minions. 2013, with Eddie's help, we got the Mars rover, and we got yelled at a little bit for that one. Again. 2014 kind of got sidetracked. 2015, yeah, things went a little sideways. And then I gave Chris the option this year. I've been talking about cows. War-driving cows. If you don't know what the hell it is, so many of the cows these days are wearing pedometers and near-field communication and RFID shit. Seriously, go out in the middle of a field with a scanner and war drive the cows. So much fun. This year, we got minions. We did make a couple of mistakes along the way. Some of the mistakes got really, really freaking messy. Do you guys please tell me you guys recognize this movie? I showed it to somebody the other day and they're like, I don't know what that movie is. You guys recognize it? Good. And then can somebody please explain to me which freaking timeline that movie is currently following? Holy shit. I swear, they wandered off into the distance and I have no clue which one they're up to, but it was kind of fun to watch. Anyway, we made quite a lot of mistakes as well along the way. Endo and exoskeletons. Let's talk about those for a brief second, because they're fun. An endoskeleton, obviously, is our internal skeletal system, and our exoskeleton is represented by our Lego man there. We actually did a whole bunch of research on endo and exoskeletons. We had the occasional person or two that we used it to test on, which is really good, because it looks really freaking cool when the claws come out. But you know what? It's a bitch to install this stuff. The exoskeleton, really cool, really fun, kind of a Superman suit, but when the batteries go flat, you are screwed. You guys recognize that movie? Some of you do, some of you don't. What the heck was it called? Thank you. I love that movie. So we took a look at the list as to how to get minions. What can we do? What are our options on this one? We looked at reanimating the dead. Unfortunately, it kind of fails on a regular basis. History is not on our part. We looked at stealing body parts and sewing them together. It's kind of an easy way. If you can't have a human, you can make a couple of humans. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. How hard can it be? Natives tend to get restless when you do that. We looked at the endoskeleton, the superpowers. We looked at the exoskeleton. Had a problem with that one as well. So then we looked at the whole bonding of human and tech. And somebody hit me up on Twitter on this one the other day. Obviously, so much of that shit is still hackable. We know the issues with the insulin pumps. We know the issues with the heart monitors. We know the issues with the tech that's out there. It's kind of near and dear to this community for a bunch of different reasons. So then we realized if we're actually going to get our minions and if we're actually going to do something with this, we need to actually look for another solution. So we did. For that, we thanked Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia. We looked at the human itself, or themselves, or ourselves. We looked at what is the composition of a human. We looked at the environment of the human. We looked to see actually what actually makes us. And the logic flow here is simple. Why actually build a better us when we can actually improve us to some degree? Endoskeletons, exos, humans are 18% carbon, give or take a little bit. Carbon used in computers. Carbon nanotubes have been around since about 1998, actually potentially even longer than that, depends upon which timeline and whose history you believe. About the 1970s, they started doing a bunch of stuff in Russia, but unfortunately there's this whole issue between Russia and America, kind of the same shit that we've got going on now. Carbon computing got proven back in 2013. We're nothing more than walking computers. How hard can this be? We took a note out of Mother Nature as well, which is fairly useful for us. We obviously have a fairly complex DNA sequencing system. As part of that, you have this wonderful thing called RNA. And RNA codings are something that the viruses that we tend to get use. So the whole thought was, okay, if we need to get something into the human, can we modify the DNA sequence? Well, we can, but it gets a little iffy. You just got to ask the Chinese on that one at the moment. So, well, okay, let's take a note out of what Mother Nature does with viruses. Viruses get into the cells. RNA, the ribonucleic acid, the core genetic material. So it's like, hey, we can use this shit. Until you suddenly realize that RNA, unfortunately, is responsible for some of the nastiest things out there. As it says, Ebola, SARS, influenza, polio, measles, the whole lot. It's some pretty nasty and toxic stuff you're dealing with. Unfortunately, it's also one of the easiest things that you can actually build carbon architectures and human hacking tools onto. So, ribonucleic acid, all your bugs now belong to us. We control them, we manage them, and what can we do with them? So to that, we took a look at nanotechnology. Newish kind of stuff, newish kind of things going on. And the whole idea is like, okay, let's take a look at what's being done with the definition of nanotech. Let's take a look at how people are actually building these things, what's being built. Let's take a look at how to encode them, how they're being deployed. In other words, I want my minion army. Do I actually have to go around and inject every single person, or is there a way I can actually get to somebody themselves? And let's take a look at it again from the outside. In your regular corporate lives or your organizations or your research world, it's the same thing. If I need to hack you, I can come up to you and do it, or I can attack you through your partners, your vendors, your suppliers. Unfortunately, the chain that we tend to forget when we're dealing with security inside our own organizations. So we took a look at it that way. And as it says, worst case scenario, we decide to hack the human. Or in this case, squirrel hacking. These are useful pauses that I can take a drink. So let's break it down. What are we actually going to do? Well, we're going to take a look at what the heck is nanotechnology. What is a nano thing? What are nano engines? How the hell do you build the stupid things? They're small. In fact, they're crazy small. A set of spanners and screwdrivers will not do it. We need a new toolkit. How do you program the critters? How do you get them to your target? How do you control them? And of course, it's us. How do we hack the damn things? So, a quick, brief blinder on this one. What is nanotech? Typically a nanometer. Now, the best way of looking at that one is actually this next slide, which I'll bring up in a second. These critters are freaking small. About the size of a couple of atoms. Yet at the current point in time, we're able to build semi-complex engines with these things. It's actually really freaking cool. They're almost the strongest and stiffest material out there. They're able to survive inside our bodies. Huge temperature changes. They're good at optics. They're good at water. They're good at properties. They're kind of almost this little super thing. One of the things I was looking at is we actually did a little bit of research. Their strength from diameter to length ratio, the tensile strength capability that these things have, we worked it out. If you actually built a nanotube carbon, basically almost like a piece of rope, and it was 1 centimeter in diameter, it would actually be able to stretch, it was, 820 miles straight out without breaking. It's freaking crazy. We can't even do steel more than what? 20, 30, 40, 50 yards without having to put a structure in place? This shit, 820 miles dead straight out. These things are freaking cool. Nanotech. And here is scale. On the right-hand side is a human hair. On this side, this is actually a cluster of nanotube arrays. They've actually got it from a production side of things, where they can actually now build these things en masse. No longer are they constraining it to the small labs. They're actually building, I've got another couple of slides on this stuff, but these things are freaking amazing. These are single-walled nanotubes. They do single-walled, multi-walled, all sorts of other wonderful stuff. And depending upon how they're built, and depending upon how they're rolled, will depend upon the properties that these things have. We'll get into that in a second. But the cool thing about it, as it says on there, you look at the size and the scale, you'll get about 80,000 of them across a single human hair. So at that point in time, you've taken the concept of hacking a human from putting an embedded device to literally having it at an atomic level. Start thinking about that from a detection capability standpoint. So, microscopes, nano things, nanotech in action. The whole concept here is how do we get technology to interact with the human? And this is where we take a step back and we look at what Hollywood versus what reality is. So, how many of you guys have seen the blasted G.I. Joe movie? With the what the hell they call those things? The nanomites. The voracious nanomites that ate everything. I have a slide at the very end where it shows eating Paris, and I'm like, yes! We're a little bit far-fetched on that. Big Hero 5 movie, the carbon-based nanotechnology that he builds, that's not so far-fetched. The ability to have swarm capabilities at a nano level is getting closer to reality. Now, we haven't built it to a stage where I can have the little critters on stage come up and lift me up and all that crazy shit, but we're at a stage where we've got the capability to communicate independently with these things and communicate as a swarm with these things. What else do we have? Honey, I Shrunk. How many of you guys remember Honey? How many of you are old enough to remember Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? When was that done? 90s? 80s? Yeah. Some of you guys you were not even a twinkle in your parents' eyes. Needless to say, that's a little iffy on that one. Transcendence and Ghost in the Shell. The ability for nanotechnology to do healing inside human. Now, it might not necessarily be at the Terminator level where I shoot you and instantaneously you're like, and it's all good to go again. But the ability to put an object inside the bloodstream that has the capability to heal you is actually on the roadmap. They've done clinical trials with some of this shit, and it's freaking awesome. They've done it. Oops. Please hold. We're having a technology malfunction. I'm probably walking around too much. Yeah. The kilt falls down, we got problems. It ain't going to be pretty. And there are no piercings. You didn't need that image, did you? All right. So, we're not, although this is all kind of fiction and all this is kind of cool and kind of crazy, when we start talking about computers and we start talking about technology, especially those of you that are coming up through the ranks, for want of a better way of putting it, rather than the old farts with the gray and purple beards, this is some of the things you need to consider. These are some of the areas you need to think about. It isn't just traditional security or IoT security or vehicle or anything along those lines. We've now shrunk the system down to an atomic level. So what can we do to influence that, both positively and at a hacking level? 3 different ways of building these things. Nucleic acid robots, freaking awesome. Molecular machines with DNA structure that can actually build other machines at the nano level. Freaking amazing stuff. You now have the ability for an organic system to build another organic system given an input string. Bacteria-based. This is both good and both scary. Again, if you go back to RNA and you go back to some of the most effective viruses, they also make some of the most effective building blocks. So what are we looking at doing at nanotech? Taking E. coli and injecting it into our system? Kind of scares the crap out of me. Nanoscopic assemblers. These are freaking amazing things as well. Atomic and molecular level machines and assembly lines. So we talking about building not just the nano machines themselves, but also the tech that they can use. So the whole idea is you need to build a semi-complex robot. If I'm going to attack something inside your body, let's say a kidney stone, I need a series of actions. I need a nanobot that's able to find the stupid kidney stone. I need the actual bot itself to be able to swarm together, to be able to produce an ultrasonic sound, to be able to break down that kidney stone. And by the way, I need it to be able to swim up the bloody bloodstream to find the damn thing. All of this stuff is being built independently at the moment, but they're looking at how they can build this together. And that's kind of where we come in, because we're like, great, you're building that shit. How do I hack it? I don't want it to go to the kidney stone. I'm going to send it to your heart. How do I do that? I can do it at the biology level. I can hack you at that level. It's kind of fun stuff. Now, how far along are these guys? How much of this is real? How much of this is sci-fi? This is kind of cool. This was actually produced, EIPL's lab produced this, I think, 2 or 3 days ago. This is nano computations. They've actually managed to get it to a stage where not only can they build these things, but they can get them to actually recognize characters, recognize alphabets, reproduce them. And now we're getting to a stage where we can program. I've got a couple of slides on that one. So we are no longer looking at single systems. We're looking at slightly more complex machines. We're looking at production systems that can start building really, really nice, 1, 2, or 3 instruction type machines. We have the biology capabilities to communicate. And this goes back to building them as well. This is where this stuff gets really funky and really friggin' interesting. Depending upon how you roll up your flat nanocarbons will depend upon how their properties are. So if you take a piece of paper, imagine taking a piece of paper and rolling it up. If you roll it lengthwise, it'll conduct electricity. If you roll it horizontally wise, vertical, whichever one, roll it in a different angle, it will actually have other electrical properties. So now your single piece of paper can both conduct, transmit, run as a semiconductor, run as a transistor, all of these other kind of things. It's freaking awesome stuff. And it's stuff that we need to start thinking about and considering. Yes, we're having fun with an IoT village, but give it 5 years and we'll have a poor looking cadaver on the table jacked into a network jack going, hey, let's hack the human. Let's make the left arm flop. Okay, we got it. Let's make other things rise and fall. But it's pretty awesome. I mean, you think about, so the really cool stuff on this thing is applying other kinds of biological I thought I was getting a dinosaur. I'm not getting a dinosaur, I'm getting a nice old lady. All right, so it's kind of cool because you get the ability now. So you build a transistor, logic gates, the very basic building blocks of computers. You can now build them at a molecular level by simply applying oxygen to one half of the stupid thing, at which point now you get a single logic gate. So you start getting these things to mesh together, you start getting them to communicate together, and all of a sudden, you have the ability to hack these things. And we go, oh, it's a long way off. But if you take price, which is always a good indicator of acceptance and adoption, so we go back 15 years, it cost about $1,500 or so to get a gram of nanocarbon tubes. Single wall tubes, not the complex stuff. You basically fast forward to 2010, $50. You now go this year, I did some research last night, $2 per gram. You can sniff nanocarbons as opposed to white substances, so it's cheaper. Not sure what it'll do to you, but it'll be fun. Kind of interesting stuff. All right, break for a second. What the fuck? The question is, can I shoot it? A dinosaur hunting, where are we? Michigan. You guys like guns, don't you? Sweet. Come back. It's dino season. Frickin' awesome. All right. So let's take this step by step by step. You want to hack the human. You obviously need to build your tools. No different than if you hack a computer system. No different than hack an IoT system. You have all these steps to follow. Well, at this level, it's exactly the same thing. You have to build the technology. You have to understand the platform. I keep thinking the frickin' dino. Where is he? If you see him, let me know. I will shoot him. I'll wing him so we can keep on doing it. But I'm just going to be nice. But the nice thing about this is, it's the same concepts that we have. We build our system, now we have to encode it. And in this case, we've got a couple of other different ways of doing it. GE, sorry guys, I'm going to get another cease and desist letter at this point, aren't I? Otherwise, I'll just accept it. They have a team, they've got about 80 to 100 scientists that are doing a whole bunch of research on encoding this gear. You take a look at DNA computing. If you guys haven't done research on that and you feel like having a geek couple of minutes, it's amazing. The ability for us as humans to store data is phenomenal. I was at a presentation a couple of months ago out in New York neck of the woods, and they were talking about using cockroaches to exfiltrate data from data centers using near-field communication and some other shit. A simple cockroach, 50 gigs worth of data. Who needs a frickin' USB stick when you got cockroaches? I'm like, holy shit. So the ability to put data into our DNA, sod just reading it, sod carrying a USB drive around, we are our own freaking walking, soggy, squishy hard drive. So why not take advantage of that? The ability to use molecular and electronic capabilities. We are also a walking battery, if you think about it. Ignoring the matrix and all that other crazy shit, we're a walking battery, for crying out loud. And if you take a look at what we've done in the last 100 years on traditional computing, science these days is relying and looking at that. Now, the problem is, they're looking at it from a, hey, this is really cool perspective, rather than the last 20 to 25 years worth of security knowledge. Going, hey, this shit's cool, but look what we can do to it, and how we can break it. And that is where part of the problem is. Nice thing about this one as well, you've encoded it. Well, how the hell do we actually get it onto the system? Well, do a little bit of research. There's actually a really cool hardware language called Verilog. You used to use it a long time ago. Well, the scientists have gone, hey, that's really cool. It's basically you can write directly into chips and hardware systems. If you haven't messed with it, I strongly advise messing with it. It'll probably give the car people nightmares, it'll give the IoT people nightmares, and it'll give all the critical infrastructure people nightmares. So please do it. Cello. Look up Cello CAD. This is a program that the scientists have actually written to directly write from our world, the language that we understand, into a DNA sequence. So you want to know, you've built your machine, you've encoded your machine, how the hell do you get it to do something? This is part of it. You start looking at algorithms. Basically, the cool stuff on this one, it all works off of a gate principle, no different than an XOR on, XOR off side of things. It's really, really fun. How much fun? We're going to do some science. We hacked E. coli. Total amount of fun. We actually did a whole bunch of biological hacking. So we took the RNA sequencing of E. coli. We actually took the code. So on the left-hand side of the screen is basically the Verilog sensor capability. So what modules we're doing, it's simple coding. This is base. This is like assembler level and lower. We took that. We were able to basically get it to a stage where we could DNA sequence what the code was actually doing. The species, the tames, the operating conditions, the gate technology. In other words, you take E. coli and you say, hey, don't be E. coli. We still need the RNA capabilities. We still need you to be able to sneak by all of the humans' defense systems. But instead of being E. coli, I want you to basically go after a different type of molecule. In this case, a cancer molecule. Kind of fun. Now, we've built it. We've coded it. Now we've got to get it into our target humans. Couldn't help it. Had to have some fun with that one. So, a couple of facts from science. Top left-hand side, that entire set of screens is actually an electron microscopic level analysis of nanotech in action. We talk about semi-complex machines. What they're actually doing here is they've taken a carbon nanotube with additional single-walled nanotube technology and applied heat to it. The heat in this case tells the molecular tail to move. In other words, now I have the capability through using electromagnetic forces to move the nanotube robots around your body. This is fact, not fiction. Which is great until you realize that, oh, I know I've got hold of electromagnetic stuff, so God only knows what I could do to somebody's body if I played with it. Bottom right-hand side. Starting to teach these things how to actually code themselves. So we're providing a level of awareness to the technology. The upside of that one is we inject it into you, it's actually got to figure out what the hell it's got to do, where it's got to go. It has to make decisions itself. Simple logic gates, made more complex, with simple programming languages. Everybody good so far? Yeah. Hang on. So what was the question? If itself. It's actually powering itself. They're self-sustained systems. So they're actually, I mean, they're not, so the question was basically if heat or laser or electromagnetic pulses can make it do something, what's it actually powering it? It's a self-powering system. That's the crazy thing about it. Yeah, I know. It's kind of fun tech. It's kind of one of those weird, oh shit, sci-fi, but it's not. That's what I love about it. The heat in this case will actually make it move in a specific direction. The electromagnetics basically make it pulse as well. So there's some fun things on it. The code on it, the chemicals on it. So, let's figure out how this stuff actually gets into you. Now, drinking tainted water isn't going to work. Not at the moment, anyway. We have a stomach-to-blood barrier that, fortunately, actually, cannot be passed through or cannot be bypassed. Breathing impregnated air supply. What's crazy about this one is there's a whole bunch of research. Because we're producing so many of these carbon nanotubes, there are concerns that we're breathing them in and what it's actually doing to the lung systems that we have and how it's interacting with the aorei, the weird freaking little things that look like cauliflowers. Alveolar. There we go. Haven't crossed the barrier, but they're looking at coating it in certain types of enzymes so that it will cross that barrier. Kind of fun, but kind of scary. We're obviously not shrinking complex systems down. We're building complex systems up. So as much as Hollywood wants to go in that direction, we're not heading in that direction. Now, I will caveat all of this. We have got a hell of a long way to go. We've got fairly simple mechanisms in place. There's a whole bunch of intra-communications. There's a whole study done, I think I've got one of the pictures up on it, where they were able to do molecular communications across meters worth of just open space and air and water. They used perfume as a communication string. So, how do we deploy it? Let's take a look at the main cultivators. Healthcare facilities are putting trials in drug delivery, the focused therapy, sound, ultrasonic, and laser, some pretty cool stuff that they're doing in that one. The diagnostics. So one of the cool things on this one is having potentially something running around the body that's actually monitoring it at the same time. Kind of cool, kind of scary, unless you're somebody like us. Dental practices, for crying out loud. the resins, the bonding, and then the restorative side of the world. They're all kind of happy and giddy over all this stuff. The bonding capabilities at a nanotech level, so the ability to bond material to material at each individual molecular level, which is great, again, until you're somebody like us who goes, hey, that's awesome, but if I apply an electromagnetic force here, as opposed to here, I can glue your teeth shut. Kind of fun, kind of crazy, unfortunately kind of true. All right, squirrel moment while I drink again. Can't help it. The age-old pirates versus ninjas. It's quite simple. There is a talk like a pirate day. Enough said. All right, back to science. So let's have some fun with this. Let's actually put some of this into practice. So this is actually taken from a presentation that was given a while ago. They actually built as a hexametric ring. So again, not much different than the packets that we have. When you take Burp Suite and you do an intercept and you go, hey, look what I can do, and you recode the packet and you send it on, you have just done the basics of a man-in-the-middle attack. Agreed? This is the same shit. Except in this case, we're back at the molecular level. We have our keys, the receptor binding. We've got our transport, the siRNA. We've taken some of the nastiest shit out there. Hopefully, we've taken the nasty shit out of it, and we have one of the best transportation methods known to mankind. Same system we do when we've done viruses and vaccines. Similar concept, take the nasty shit, use it for the best purposes, make it good, hopefully, and off we go. We have the bypass tools, the ribozymes. They're awesome. Don't look at me, I'm perfectly okay, as it goes swimming by the human's version of an IDS, IPS, and a firewall. I'm perfectly safe, I'm a happy packet. We have the reporting tools. This is nothing more than get the PCAP or it doesn't count. We have the payload, the drugs. In this case, a positive thing. And then we've obviously got the decoys. These are great. The endosomic disruptors. It's like having flares coming out of the back of the C-130 when shit's going down. It's awesome. What does this mean in English? What it means in English is we took bird flu, one of those really kind of cool things. We bound it to multi-wall nanotubes. So we're not doing single-wall stuff, we're doing multi-wall. Why? Because we need multiple sets of functionality. We fooled the body into thinking it was good. It's like, hey, no problems, this is good. It's like handing a user a USB drive. Don't worry, my PowerPoint's on here, have a nice day. 20 minutes later, shell accepted, thank you very much. We have the propulsion system to move it in the body. In this case, it was using near-field communications. We've got the tracking method and the monitoring. Again, now I know where it is in the body, now I know what it's doing in the body. We've got the capability to deliver drugs. And if we're nice, we drop the drug into a cancer cell, right into the freaking cell. Well, the first set of these things that they actually built, they were able to find the cell and literally highlight the cell. So the physician, doctor, whatever you want to call them, was able to sit there with a laser and just beat the shit out of all the wrong cells. Nowadays, they've taken it one step further. And that's great until you look at somebody like me who goes, well, fuck that. Let's hack the system and drop it into a red blood cell. And I drop your red blood cell count to, I don't know, 0. There's all sorts of Google documents that say how bad that is. All right. So here's some fun shit. You can make your own communicator at the molecular level. $100 buys you this tech, give or take a bit. You can actually do molecular level communications. Do some research. It's freaking awesome. 2013, bunch of guys up north of here. First guys to actually did it. The first thing they sent was, Canada. I'm like, come on. Seriously, in 1,000 years' time, we're going to be like, and the first person to do this? Yeah. It ain't pretty. But you can get this stuff. So you want to start practicing and messing with the future? Have at it. Who cares about whether you've got wireless signal or whether you have any kind of 3G capability? You can use this. Now, the fun thing about this is they're actually using some of the molecular communications and some of the more critical infrastructures, specifically areas where any kind of cellular or radio communications is either banned or is likely to cause all sorts of interesting things like explosions. So they've now figured out how to do this. They can actually run it across a room at least. It's kind of pretty cool. So the supporting tech that we have on this. Take a look. So if you're interested in this, if this is something that's like, hey, this actually could be kind of freaking cool, take a look at the manufacturers, basically the guys that are making the carbon nanotubes, the various other types. There's all sorts of other type of nanotube technologies they're building because they all have different properties. The research institutes, they're putting a ton of papers out. Now, most of them, if you go to the website, they're like, hi, you can borrow this for 24 hours for $50. You know, if you take the PDF and you Google it, you'll find it for free. And if you don't, get hold of me, I'll find it for you. Understand, take a look at the communications. Nano antennas. Holy shit, these things are freaking awesome. They're like, how many of you guys have seen the self-serve machines where you get the bottles of Coke and shit out of them, where the credit card's in there, and they got that stupid little antenna on there? They've basically mimicked nano antennas after that. It's about 3 to 5 nanometers across, but it looks exactly like the same one that's on the top of a Coke machine. Awesome things to play with. Take a look at the healthcare and dental industry. I know we've beaten them up enough over the last couple of years because they keep losing all of our shit, but it's actually fun. They're doing a ton of research in this. There's some actual real positive stuff that's coming out of this. But with anything, you've also got the likes of us who go, hey, that's really cool. Look what I can do to it. Molecular electronics. If you haven't messed with it, grab the Arduino, plug it in, have fun with it. Beat up on GE. So the other cool stuff with this one is they're not just looking at it for like the regular stuff we talk about, hacking humans. The capability at a metallurgical level, at a molecular level in metallurgy, is that the right word? Yeah. So basically all the high-speed engines, all the supersonic engines, all the shit that's meant to go like Mach 10, Mach 12 and above, all the heat properties on the metal surfaces, they're looking at the nanotech there. Which is great until you look at somebody like us who goes, look at what I can do, and introduce a flaw into the system that you won't find until it's too late. Yeah, nanotechnology in food. We thought we had problems with GMO. This shit's going to get nasty. At the moment, what they're looking at doing it, you know how, God, when was the BPA issue? Was that 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago? When they had the issue with the leakage, it was the plastic coating leaking into the water, wasn't it? Is that right? Give or take a bit? So they're looking at basically having the nanotech technology be a better lining inside maybe glass and metals and everything else, which is awesome until you start looking at the consequences of that. Or you start going, okay, so what are you using as your method of actually, what is the base underlying technology you're using? Are you lining my basic water bottle with bird flu? Not good. I don't like that idea. And then nanotech in agriculture. And I didn't finish my sentence because it must have been 2-something in the morning and I forgot. I think it was like all your lettuce belongs to me or something like that. I did, however, put a slide up there for nanoagriculture. For those, I think there's a couple of videos out there with me talking about ponying cows and shit, but this was like a follow-on. So they're looking at doing a whole bunch in, based not just ag, but processing, packaging, and supplements. Which, again, is kind of cool-ish. I like getting my red meat, which gives me my iron and all this shit. I don't need you injecting nanotech into my red meat so I get more iron in my system. Leave my crap alone. but they're not going to. So from an awareness standpoint, that's something we want to take a look at. From a security standpoint, we really want to take a look at that shit. So we go back to research again. We go back to us taking it upon ourselves, no different than the IoT village. When you come and sit down in front of the IoT village and there is a Nest box in front of you, don't just look at it and hope it will walk up to you and go, "Hi, I'm a Nest." Grab a screwdriver, grab the Dremel tool, and beat the living crap out of it until it submits. And it's the same way that we do research. Take a look at anything that you're researching. Do the open source, do the human, do the SIGINT. Look at the forums. We're the analyst in this case. And there's a ton of data out there. This was mostly all done on my time just doing research on this stuff. So, as I have yelled at people before, because they don't say what to do about it, we have a couple of slides. What do? We can communicate. Not something that we're overly good at sometimes, but it is something we need to get better at. We need to actually start to reach out to the research institutes. We need to talk more at the healthcare facilities. We need to be the ones that go to the carbon nanotube manufacturers and go, "Hey, this is really cool shit, but have you thought about the consequences of the 6'3", hairy, purple-bearded, kilt-wielding guy as he sits there and giggles as he hacks the human and makes the hand do this instead?" Start researching. Take your own time to take a look at this and see what's actually going on. It's kind of fun stuff. There's some really, really cool tech on there. So what does it mean? What does it mean for us? Well, it's kind of cool. If it works, it's going to be pretty awesome. If it doesn't, it kind of sucks to be human. From a security standpoint, this is kind of cool. We've been so focused initially on, we started off with the bloody data center, and the data center bled into the corporate office, and then the corporate office bled into the home office, and the home office bled into the automotive system and everything else that we have in the whole IoT, and the IoT bled into the cloud, and now we've just shrunk everything down. We now have an opportunity to look at this and go, this is cool shit. We might actually be able to get ahead of the curve on this one. If we get it right, we'll work hand in hand with those guys. If we get it wrong, well, we're going to be cleaning up another mess. So how do we solve it? Well, we get to communicate again, unfortunately. More of you guys. Do some research. Stand up on stage. Demonstrate not only how you hacked somebody to make their arm move sideways, but see what you can do with the damn thing. Look at alternatives. One of the cool things I'm working on now is deceptive technology. Honeypots 2.0. Kind of fun stuff, kind of cool stuff. And we're looking and going, okay, how could we sew deceptive tech into IoT and into humans? Kind of fun stuff. And then how do we address it? Let's engage more with these guys. And then how do we educate them effectively? Because this is the shit that's coming down the line. This is some of the design specifications that they're building. And it's kind of like a mini matrix. And I'm pretty sure somebody must have watched the movie before they built it. Because you got manipulators. You've got telescopes. You've got micro manipulators on this thing. You've got biomolecular sensors on this thing. This is nothing more than a self-contained attack tool. It's pretty awesome. So best case. Let's take a positive look for a second. Obviously, targeted cure for cancer. Pretty freaking awesome. Blood clots, drug delivery systems, kidney stones, parasite removals, all of the good things. It's a nice thing to think of. What's the worst case? Targeted attacks. The one cool one, for those of us that have worked inside secure facilities, this is where it gets really freaking interesting. We think of the SCIF and as like SIPRNet and NIPRNet as this kind of secure-ish facility. That shit's just about to go out of the window. At this point, nothing is secure. Kind of an interesting way of looking at it. We weaponize it, and as how good we are at losing control of shit in the past, we probably lose control of this, and then God only knows what the hell happens. Obviously, tech gains an upper hand. We've had that in Hollywood for the last few years. I like this one. Our evolution, us, we go much more carbon-based. That could be kind of fun. I'm kind of intrigued to see if that one happens. Temperature and electromagnetic changes become weapons of choice. Forget shooting you. I'm just going to basically point an electromagnetic force at you. Okay, so some conclusions. Obviously, this is one option. This is another one. So for many of you that have kind of heard me stand up on stage over the years at various other conferences, we've done a fair bit of crystal ball glazing. Glazing? Gazing even. Shit, this is good. We've done a fair bit of crystal ball gazing. Jesse and I stood up. We did live hacks in Vegas in like 2010 on cars. Now we have an entire village of the stupid things. We hacked airplanes and we know how that all ended. We've done a bunch of stuff. All of you guys have done research in fields where you're like, yeah, there's a problem. And eventually the industry catches up and goes, hey, there's a problem 5 years after we handed them their asses. I would rather, in this instance, when we're dealing with the squishy mess of 260 band of shit in front of us, I don't want to be the one that gets hacked. I'd rather get ahead of the curve and help them understand how not to hack us, the human. Kind of want some help on that one too. Why? Because I'd rather avoid this. I have no problem at all if this happens. Absolutely none whatsoever. I actually have the geolocations of the Paris Eiffel Tower built into a freaking molecular structure at the moment. It's actually pretty cool. I can actually get E. coli to target Paris. I haven't quite figured out how to deploy it, and I'd probably get yelled at if I did. So let's think happy thoughts for a second. We have the opportunity to change and to influence it. We obviously have the capability to educate. So many of you guys have that capability. Take advantage of it. We obviously have the ability to teach and to collaborate and cooperate. Or we have time to prepare. So with that, obviously, as always, we have one hell of a freaking community. So consider this one of those, hey, there's some weird shit coming down the line, as an outreach to everybody. Do some research. Do a little bit of checking. Ask the questions. And then start figuring this shit out, because we've got a pretty good community. Obviously to Chris and the crew that they have here, hug the guys in the yellow shirts. They need it. Most of them will accept it. They're freaking awesome. Obviously a Calvio for letting me stand up here and not firing me for talking about shit and penises and stuff. EFF, because they put up with me. Eddie, go hug Eddie as well, please. Eddie Miser's here. Go give him a hug. Now, obviously, Hackers for Charities, the Hack for Kids. Go give those guys a hug. And as always, get out, have fun, and make a difference. Thank you very, very, very much, guys. Appreciate it.